Hi everybody, welcome back to the cabin. Black flies are out, as you can see, I'm sure, they're flying around the camera. That's the cabin up in the background, up on the hill there. And this is the stream back behind the cabin. So what I'm doing right now is I'm digging up some moss for the roof of the sauna, but to kind of dual purpose, or triple purpose actually, because I'm also planting a garden here, a vegetable garden. It's something I've been planning to do for the last 2 years, and I'm finally going to make a small attempt. Need to start growing my own food, so this will be one of the places I try it. I don't have high expectations. Well, let me get back to that in a second. So the third purpose is that while I was away on my canoe trip, for some reason we got a freak flash flood that went down I guess from my top pond down into the ditch along the road and then back down here, and it washed some debris down here, but worse than that, it actually washed out the bottom of the driveway completely, like tons and tons of water through there. I can't really explain it. I wasn't here to see it, but the aftermath was pretty obvious, but also it surprised me because we had so much snow this year and a lot of melt about a month ago that filled up top pond, and then it drained through here, so the water was pretty high, as high as it's been since I've owned the property, owned this land for the last 2 years. But not exceptional. It wasn't like risky or anything, wasn't washing anything out. And then the water started dropping because this is a headwater. It's really high. Basically this stream that feeds all the way down eventually into bigger river systems and all the way down to Georgian Bay. We're at the high point. There's nothing that feeds into this property. This is the source of this creek, of this water shed, a river system. So it's not like a lot of water can funnel in from other areas as it falls and then come down through here. Like I said, it's a headwater, so very little feeding it. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if a neighbor down south of here had a pond that was connected as well, that had a beaver dam that he'd opened up for some reason. Still can't imagine why it would bring that much water suddenly. I can't explain it. Maybe a spring bubbled up and let go, an artesian spring, and filled that pond. The pond is full. I went up there expecting to find that the 2 old little beaver dams that hold my pond together would be gone and that pond would be drained, but there's more water in there than there's been, as much water as there's been since I've owned the land. So that doesn't explain it. Anyway, what I've done here is let this dam opened up this dam a little bit to let some water out. Now the cabin is really high and dry. There's no risk to me up there, but it's something I've wanted to do anyway, was to release the water from this section to lower the breeding insect pool right here, lower the water table here so that I could try planting some vegetables and get the water down into the meadow, the old beaver meadow here. And there's another dam below that I'm going to keep intact, and maybe even build it up so that I could flood that meadow in the fall once everything's done breeding in there. Flood it and let waterfowl come in so that I can waterfowl hunt in it. So kind of some engineering here that the beavers normally would do, but they're gone from this area. I think mainly because the food's been mostly eaten up. There's some maple saplings and stuff, and if they were to go up into my forest up there, there's plenty to eat, but it's kind of dangerous for them, and it's not their preferred food. So there's no alders, willows, poplar anymore along this whole creek valley, which goes quite a ways. So the beaver have moved out. More plants will grow up in these areas, to more trees, and maybe 10 years from now the beaver will move back in. But in the meantime, it's up to me, or it's not necessarily up to me. It would be fine if nobody did anything to it, but I'm utilizing the land for purposes of wildlife and for myself, of course. So plant a little bit of vegetables here. We'll see if they grow. I'm assuming it's going to be a failure because the soil here is going to be still maybe a little bit too wet, but even if it dries out, it may be way too acidic to grow vegetables. So I have to try. I have to start finding out how I can live off this land, and that's one of the best ways I can think of to do it, is to utilize this wet valley. Sorry, the wind is now blowing right at the mic. I'm going to turn it around. Callie's waiting patiently for me to throw that. Just turning the mic around because the wind was blowing right into it. I hope that's better. Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be way too acidic here to grow vegetables. I should research a little bit more into what vegetables can handle the acidity and the moisture. I'm thinking like asparagus, and I'm not sure what else. So I'm trying the three sisters, what the First Nations refer to it as, for this area that was growing in this area, and that's corn, squash, and beans. So the corn grows up tall, the beans wrap around the corn stalk, so that grows up, gets them off the ground. The squash grow really big leaves and pumpkins, and they kind of blanket the ground so no weeds grow up. So that's the intent. I'm going to give it a try. Like I said, not high expectations. So this will be one trial garden, and then I'll do one up in the higher ground, up in the maples, after I clear a little spot there for it, for vegetables, and see how they grow. I think they're going to grow better up there. Of course, it's going to be more difficult to water them, so I'll have to collect water from the roofs and from down here to feed it. But that's my challenge. This land is not meant for agriculture. It's not by far not great for growing vegetables. I'd be better off concentrating on meat, protein, and have to continue to bring in my vegetables likely. I've got my maple syrup. I've got tons of mushrooms I can eat, and some cattails and a few other wild edibles. But I need to continue to create a forest garden here so that more and more native plants start growing up that I can feed on. Hey, Cali. So the three purposes of what I'm doing here: sod and moss for the roof of the sauna, clearing a spot for growing vegetables, and thirdly to get the water table down here so it doesn't flood out the driveway again. Alright, lots of hard work, and I have to move all this sod up to the cabin, which is going to take a while. The other problem with this spot is that it's right, of course, at the river where the wildlife is the most abundant. So deer come through here, moose, bear, wolf, they all cross this dam. Otter, what else? Ducks and geese. So again, the likelihood of this succeeding is not huge. It would be a complete waste of my time if I wasn't also using this sod for the roof. I think. I mean, maybe something will grow. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think something was possible. If we get a hot, dry summer, there's an advantage down here because of the water, obviously. Got to make sure that water level, that dam doesn't get dammed and water level comes up too much and floods out the roots. Some bean seeds sent by a subscriber. Colleen from Burkes Falls, Ontario, actually. So these are beans that she's grown in this area. I recognize a couple right off the bat. I've grown them as well. So I'll try a couple of these in the mounds. that was tiring. That's a lot of weight in that pack, a lot of weight in this sod. Not a very good idea to have this much soil on here, thick, dense soil like this. Something you might not know about me, in the past I actually have my green roof professional certification, which means I can design and install living roofs on commercial rooftops generally. Did a couple of interesting projects actually. Probably the most interesting one I did before I lost my business was the polar bear exhibit, Tundra I think it was called, at the Toronto Zoo. So the pavilion there, I don't know, what's that, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. We put a living roof on top of the polar bear exhibit. So if you were to look on the roof, you'll see grasses and small trees and stuff like that growing on top of the roof, which is pretty cool. Probably another very interesting one I did was the roof of a hotel down in Toronto, Mississauga, and we had trees, full-size amber maple trees on top of the roof in 3-foot deep beds of soil of garden, and then all kinds of other landscaping like interlocking stones and just regular gardens and stuff for smaller plants. So pretty cool. Now it weighs a lot, that's the issue. So typically you would do that on a concrete roof deck, and if you're putting it on a sloped roof like this, especially a wood one, you want to make sure there's enough slope that the water is kind of draining off, not adding too much weight to the roof. The issue with what I've done here is that soil is very good at absorbing and retaining water, and that then holds all of that water weight on the roof. It would be better if it was like a ceramic, like this roofing material here. This is just like shingles, so that's ceramic granules on there, and it's actually a good material to grow plants in on a rooftop, especially succulents like sedum that is kind of drought tolerant. So you can have this soil that doesn't hold a lot of water, but it's much lighter. So it's a bit of an issue in this case. I'll have to be careful. I think what I'll do is wait for that stuff to dry before bringing the rest of it up, and I'll trim it down, get less root and also less grass. I'll try to concentrate on getting more of the moss that may dry out. I may have to just maintain it, replace it as it dies, but it will be much lighter instead of having all this soil weight. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. It's been raining for a few days. We have dry weather coming in, so I'll wait for that to dry out a little bit, and I'll cut some more as well, maybe add some more vegetables too. So I think for that reason I'll end this video right here, at least this segment of the video, and I'll get back at the sauna not this weekend. Today's the 29th of May. I've got the guys, they're coming back up to help with the longhouse again this weekend. We've got some dry weather to do that, so we'll hopefully get the bark on and a few other things done inside. And then when they leave, I'll be back at the sauna, getting this roof done, getting that door on, and a couple of other things, to do to the cabin. And then I'm moving on to the next project here that I said I was going to get done this summer, so I got to get started on that. So like I said, I think I'll end this section of the video right now. If you liked that video last week, that canoe fishing video, I enjoyed making it, and I enjoyed that trip. It was a lot of fun, 7 days with Ted and Jim Baird, catching tons of trout and kind of living somewhat off the land. So days 5 through 7 were actually pretty exciting. Saw two of something that I've never seen before, which was really cool, especially when you're canoeing in a small river and you come across something like this. It's pretty exciting. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. It's about 20-25 minutes of that footage, and then that'll be it for this week, for this video. So next week will probably be the longhouse and or more of the sauna build. I might get 2 videos out next week, depending on timing and weather and everything. So either way, thanks for watching this segment of the video, and I hope you watch the second half of the video and like that as well. But I appreciate everybody sticking around and watching everything I'm doing up here. So have a great week, and I'll see you up in the cabin next time. Take care.
I actually wouldn't mind some spruce tea this morning. Any excuse to drink something warm. Yeah. Alright. Readier. Readier, Teddy? Those are the Inuit, you see the Indians walking out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're not afraid or whatever. I mean, they were, don't forget by the time we got to the coast, it was pretty cool. We were kind of in the water. Well, yeah. Nice trip. Still time for a lake trip. Ruined it. That's it.
Oh.
Nerve-wracking.
So that didn't work out so well. I thought everything was going fine as I was clambering around the outside of a tree. And all of a sudden I felt a tug on my rope. And I guess my canoe got drifted into a cross current. And when that current hit it, it tried to flip it on the upriver side of the current and just started taking in water. So I had to make a pretty quick maneuver to rescue it. But fortunately I was able to do that. And now my boat's full of water. I'd give it a try number 2, but I'm gonna have to pick my boat up and dump it anyway, so I might as well be safe and just carry, but interesting little occurrence there. Not a very graceful chain of events for old Jim.
Taking a break on this portage between lakes. It's about 1,300 meters, so it's at 1,600 yards or something like that. Just carrying everything, all my gear in my canoe in one go. I'm taking a break because the other two are double portaging, which means they're taking their gear over first, then going back, grabbing their canoes, and then making a second trip. Just sitting here though, we've got the river raging in the background, which is high. The water's high. And I'm looking at the forest here in front of me and noticing that it's probably a few days at least behind the cabin, the spring basically at the cabin, even though it's not far from here, almost the same elevation. But I'm slightly downhill, so this is a little bit higher elevation. So same latitude, I mean, I'm roughly in the same latitude. So interesting to see it. There's actually still patches of snow in some spots in the shade, which I think at the cabin I guess there was still the odd patch in the shade, but I'm assuming most of it's gone now, or all of it's gone. So like I said, a little bit behind. No bugs here at all yet. No hatches. As a result, the fishing's actually slower than it normally would be by this date, mid-May, because normally more insects would be hatching. And it would get the metabolism going on the fish, and they'd be eating more, and they'd be more active. This cold front that we're dealing with this week is really shutting down the action. So we had slightly warmer weather in the first couple of days, and we did better fishing. But now it's extremely tough. We only got 2 so far today, and it's 1 o'clock. So we're going to push on and get as far as we can upriver. Like I said, the water is high, so I'm not sure how much that's going to slow us down. We may end up falling short of where we had planned on being by the end of today, which means the trip may get extended an extra day, because the last day is a full day to get out of the park. So we're going to give it a try anyway. So we're going to get this portage finished and get up back on the lake and then start paddling upriver.
No, but that one's not as good.
Pretty good. The one I have is actually better.
See that? I can't see, the problem is I need rain pants on. These are my rain pants. But they're full of water. Thinking of using my already damp sweater. We're not planning on drying. Use that. Maybe dump it in the fire. Your pan.
Oh, my pan.
I'm gonna fucking slow down here.
Well, that's why it's called rye. Yeah, rye whiskey near the rye.
Yeah, and you were like, that's why she's so he's doing that lizard, dude.
Here.
Planes in the last like 15 years.
Yeah, what geese are flying up near
I saw
planes?
It did bring down. Remember that plane that
before I
landed in the Hudson though? Apparently
Yeah,
it goes
probably.
crawling.
After the mission split up and fled through the country to France.
fall fish of the trip. Kind of a neat looking thing.
Yeah, not quite as pretty as the front ground, eh?
No.
Here, I'll hold it out like this until it escapes.
Starts grunting at you. Cool. Cow moose and her baby little calf right there. It's a cow moose here with two really young calves. Looks like they were just born. Back in these alders, spruce knoll behind. Too worried she's not leaving the calves. The calves aren't running because they don't know to be spooked or to be scared of us. So they're staying close, and they actually come in a little closer to us, and she cuts them off and grunts and walks away and gets them to follow her. So she's teaching them to be wary of us, for humans and the predators. Nice experience. That's the second cow with calves that we've seen today. I think the first one had one calf. Even when you're having a great time, there's still parts that suck. And this is one of them. Even though it's been a pretty cool day, we've seen 5 moose and caught quite a number of fish. So that's the good part, and the bad part is it's been raining most of the day, and we're getting on and off hypothermic. Really, really cold, damp and cold. Not comfortable at all, but it's worth the effort. Plus, we're doing quite a few portages, and we're working for it, but still having a great time. This is the main reason this trip is extending into another day. Water keeps coming up. It's been coming up for...
What a great section this is to go down.
Yeah, be fast.
What a great section this would be to go down.
Unfortunately, we're going up this section. It's really strong today. The water keeps coming up, water level keeps coming up, and it's getting harder and harder to paddle, and then the wind is now on our face, blasting us, slowing us down even more. So this is not, oh my.
Not good accuracy. Here we are. Finally, I'm freezing. Yes. Definitely one knock of the double plate. Look, there's a dump water in your boat. Yeah. Well, you soak yourself. Oh, I'm freezing. Oh, that's a fish.
Buck, come on, come in, Buck, bag. Buck, come on. Come on. Come on, Buck. Buck, come on.
What about this one? Good size.
Well, we got fire going and we're getting our stuff unpacked here. You'll notice the fire size of the fire again tonight is pretty massive. Same as last night. Both days we've been putting up with cold rain. I'm not sure what the temperature is, but it's pretty low. The rain has just been so incessant, and then the water is so freezing that we're just soaked through, and we were starting to suffer from mild hypothermia. So we had to get to camp here, get some warm, dry clothes on, get a big fire going, a warming fire to get us back up to proper temperature and functioning properly again. I can now stop shivering. I can work my hands better now, and we can start now settling into camp, get our sleeping arrangements set up, and then get the fish on the grill, get some dinner in this too. So we kept going all day. They said it was too cold to really stop and do much other than fish. We were always willing to stop to fish, but we didn't stop to have a proper lunch. We just had cold snacks on the go. It's nice to get a warm meal in us, get some hot drinks in us, and settle in for the night. Of course, after dealing with that brutal weather all day, it's now beautiful. The clouds are blowing out fast. See blue sky up there. Probably gonna have a nice sunset. But that's great because that means get to go to bed dry and wake up dry. So it was an interesting day. We got into some fantastic brook trout fishing, and one of the areas that we really concentrated on was just a beautiful long rapid whitewater section, and it was just loaded with trout. We walked up, we pulled the canoes up, got into some difficult areas that most people wouldn't go up to fish, and paid off with some great trout. Yeah, we kept a few for dinner, and looking forward to eating that now. We also put a lot of miles on the water today, so that was I don't know, 10 hours straight. Yeah, 10 hours of paddling pretty much. Upriver, the river's in flood because we've had quite a bit of rain, and ice has only been out here for about a week. So, and we had a record-breaking snowfall this year, so a lot of meltwater, and then a lot of rain on top of that over the last week or so. Huh?